entitled Moving a Real-World Insanely Paced Project into Gitflow. My name is Danny Riley here at ISOS Technology, and I'm joined today by Thomas Bailau and Mike March. Mike March heads up our Atlassian services here at ISOS Technology, and Thomas is one of our very senior consultants. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today. First off, just give you a brief overview of ISOS Technology, who we are, and why we're here, qualified to be giving this webinar today. Then we're going to get into Gitflow, the what and why. We'll talk a little bit about Atlassian products and Gitflow. But the bulk of today's webinar will be with a real-world client example, a company called Execute to Win, a SaaS application, and we'll go through an implementation of Gitflow with some of the Atlassian products. And then at the end, we're going to provide a demo for you, and we'll do that, obviously with Gitflow. And at the end, we'll address questions. So, if you think of questions throughout the webinar, please use that GoToWebinar control panel. They'll get queued up, and then at the end, we'll make sure to address them all. So let me get started with that overview. So a little bit about ISOS Technology. We have four primary service offerings here at ISOS Technology. The first is process automation, as we call it. And that's really our Atlassian services, helping organizations to refine their process, both from a software development lifecycle, but also other business processes as well. Software solutions. So at our core, ISOS Technology is a software consulting firm. We've been engaging with clients since 2005 when we started ISOS Technology in large-scale enterprise application development, primarily in Java enterprise applications, business to business, business to client, system integration work. And in that consulting practice, we utilize a lot of the Atlassian tools. We also have a mobile solutions offering. As you guys know, any application today has a mobile component, and we provide both native and device optimized mobile solutions. And last but not least, smart recruiting. We do help our clients go out and find cream of the crop talent. We're in there working with them, understand their technologies and their processes, and have the ability to go out and find the people that fit into those two items. So our partners over on the right-hand side, Atlassian experts, we're going to talk and focus on some of that today. But we're also partners with Amazon.com, do a lot of hosting in their cloud infrastructure. IBM, a long-time partnership with them, and then some portal with LifeRay. So specifically with Atlassian, because we're going to talk a lot about their tools today. Our timeline with them is kind of storied. So when we founded ISOS Technology back in 2005, we had some experience with the Atlassian tool set, and we used Jira, Confluence, and some of the dev tools in our software consulting practice. And we used them to provide transparency to our clients in the projects that we're working on. And along the way, many of those clients came to us and said, we really like these tools. We like how you force us to interact with them. Help us configure, install, and customize these tools. So, we were doing some of that consulting with the Atlassian products, before we were actually Atlassian experts. And enough of those requests came along that around 2008, we decided that, we needed to branch off and create an Atlassian consulting services. So we did. And since 2008, as the Atlassian product suite has matured, so has our consulting practice. 2013, we became enterprise partners with Atlassian, meaning that we work across the product portfolio to craft solutions rather than just do small or minor tweaking with the products. And then Atlassian experts becoming platinum, and that means that we've proven to Atlassian that we have expertise across the product portfolio. And then today, bringing those Atlassian tools to the enterprise, specifically within development teams, but also outside of development teams and other departments within the enterprise. So last slide on us and our services. This slide basically says that our services in the Atlassian arena basically cover soup to nuts, from basic installation configuration, backup and maintenance strategies, heavy customization of plugins and integrations. Seeing that we have a backbone of software engineering here at ISOS Technology. Of course, there's product and training, best practices. Agile overhaul seems to be extremely popular, as well as Git and stash migrations, as we'll talk a little bit more about today. And then Atlassian managed services programs. So some of our clients like us to just take on that whole Atlassian practice for them, which we can do. And it looks like down below on the footer, Atlassian license sales. So that's something that we provide as well. So I'm now going to switch it over to Mike March. Mike's going to start talking about Gitflow, the what and the why. So Mike.
Thanks, Danny. So let's just talk about Gitflow and why I'm so excited about it. First thing is it, of all the workflows that we've used, it's the one. All the workflows in a version control system, especially Git. It's the one that has helped us move clients into Git more than anything else, where if they're coming from CVS to version Perforce, this has been the easiest way to kind of get clients into Git. And just to say, Gitflow, it started out and is first and foremost a convention. You don't need any automation to do it. You don't really need any external tooling. But as we'll go into very clearly, using Atlassian to do it makes it very easy and very enforceable, and actually makes it easier for your dev team and everything else. But it is a convention first and foremost. And we pretty much, anytime we go into a client, we use the Gitflow hammer first to get them all on the same page, and it stops the fight. I've been consulting with Subversion and Git and every other version control system for at least 15 years, and up until Gitflow, every few months on big projects with multiple architects, there'd be a fight breaking out every 2-3 months about how to branch and merge and stuff like that. And Git itself pretty much fixed that, but Gitflow is the final nail where those arguments don't ever happen. So that's the big reason why I'm excited about it. Okay, next slide. Okay, let's try it here. Yep. Danny, can you make, okay, sorry. There are a lot of workflows and conventions used with Git and other things, Gitflow is just one. We just find it to be the one that's fit the most use cases for our customers. And it, at its core, it utilizes feature branching. It's very useful if you're doing a lot of continuous deployment. And also, you'll see when we show this to you, it utilizes, feature branching, release branching, bug fixes, hot fixes. It accounts for a lot of the things that might pop up during your dev workflow. So let's kind of go through the actual Gitflow visualizer. This kind of shows you how it kind of works, and it will kind of, in a graphical way, kind of step you through the process here. So the first thing that you'll see, over standard Git, develop becomes your default branch, and master is where your most current production releases come from. So so if you only have one production out there for your product, it would be off your master. So develop is now your, quote, default branch. So let's see here. Let's try to progress the next slide here. There we go. So as you bring in like issues, say from Jira, every Jira issue would have its own branch. And for here, this would be, these branches would match up to like a Jira new feature branch or new, a issue type. And as you can see, some of these branches are short-lived, 1 or 2 commits, and then merge back into the develop branch, and some are long-lived features. It kind of accommodates both cases there. Then as we go along, there we go. So, and obviously, as you work on your software, releases pop up. And here you can see the release is branched off your develop branch, and there might be some commits for QA. And then when you make the final release into production, you would merge it back into master, and then merge whatever changes were made there back into your develop branch. And then also, you can see, sometimes you have bugs that pop up in your software, like critical bugs. And so what you also have in here, if I can release this thing, there we go. Hot fixes. So when you need to do a hot fix for a critical issue that happens in your production, you branch off of that, make your fix, and then you can merge it back into your master, and then make that also merge that back into your develop branch, so the rest of your other workflows can take advantage of those fixes. And also, what's nice, and we'll go into it, one thing that Stash does that's awesome that we'll talk about is it can take a hot fix and merge it across multiple release branches. So go to the next slide here. Let's go back one here. Sorry about that. So let's talk about how Gitflow interacts with Stash, Bamboo, and Jira. What's great about it is the Atlassian version of Gitflow, which is pretty much Gitflow with a few awesome tweaks, it comes for free. When you implement these products, it takes almost minutes to set up workflow and have it so it enforces the Gitflow convention. Customers kind of ask us, what's the best practice for a development workflow? And in Jira, Confluence, Jira, Stash, and Bamboo, it's free and it works right out of the box. And so that's what's made it so great is we've tried, previous to that tight integration, we've tried to help clients use Gitflow with other products, with like using Jenkins and a standard Git server, and it was always a lot of pain. And we'll kind of go into that when we talk about a real-world customer example. But with the Atlassian portfolio of products, it's all free. So let's just kind of go through with this diagram how the workflow kind of works. So first of all, you can see down here you have your developer workstation, and they get an issue from Jira, and in Jira, with a push of a button, which I'm sure you've all seen, can create a new branch in Stash that relates to an issue that you're working on. And as soon as you do that, that branch can then propagate back down to the client, to the developer workstation, and it creates a build plan for that branch in Bamboo. So it's all done automatically. When we used to do this, not using the setup, we throw all these scripts, all these things that were very painful to maintain and didn't always work. And again, with this configuration, it all comes kind of free and works pretty much out of the box. Developers work on their feature branch, and as they make commits, Bamboo automatically creates that build plan, and as you do that, it does the continuous integration on that plan, separated from everyone else. And then when the developer's done with that, they do the pull request in Stash, it tells Jira, back to Jira, I'm in a pull request, so it changes the status of an issue. And then Bamboo is constantly deploying into dev, and then when everything's done, you can do other build plans to deploy to different environments. It's a very out of the box, works really well, which we'll show you in a little bit here. And to get this all working, it's very, very simple. You just need to get Jira, Bamboo, and Stash all talking together with the standard application links, and then in Stash you define your branching model, which is like a click of a button, and branch permissions to enforce that pull request. Feature branching, again, it's very simple. Before, if you use Gitflow without the Jira and Stash integration, to create a branch, you have to manually do it in Git, and there's nothing to really enforce how it's created. Here, it's created by Jira, and it's always correct. And when you want to do continuous integration on that branch, Bamboo sees it already and just creates that build plan, nothing to configure. And of course, code reviews are enforced via pull requests. Like we said before, you have to make it so in this case, in Gitflow, you have it so your develop branch, which is your default branch, is locked down and only certain people can merge to it. And then all your dev people do pull requests back into it. And you can even have things where it's very easy to configure that not only does a pull request have to go through a code review, but also X number of Bamboo builds on that branch need to be successful before a merge happens. And you merge it back into the develop branch. And of course, this can all be part of a pipeline where you have continuous deployment. And in Jira, everything shows what lines of code have changed, what are the branches, and what environments that issue has been deployed to. It should show dev, obviously, when you're doing all your development, and then as it progresses through QA and prod, it can show you the whole history of that issue and where it touches in the whole dev process. And again, if you have a bug fix, you can those are branched from your release branches. And after those are fixed, you can merge into your master for your release again, and merge back into your develop branch, like we showed in that diagram. So let's talk about a real-world example of where we implemented Gitflow for a customer who did not start out in Git. And the customer is Execute to Win, which is a SaaS and on-premise executive management tool. And this is not our biggest client. This is the one where they really benefited from it. They develop at a very high rate, and they have a lot of releases, and they're very aggressive in their software development, and they really benefited from this whole process. Let's kind of go through the stats of this project here. So what's great, this project is exactly 4 years old, like this month. So they're not new, they're not old, they're a fairly mature piece of software that still is going through intense development every day. In the past 4 years, there's been 27,000 commits. There's been 33 people who have contributed to the code, and at right now there's 9 active, or I think 12 actually, and they have at least 300 plus branches right now in their code base. They have at least 3 versions of the software being worked on at any one time. They have internal production releases every 2 weeks at least, and a SaaS release at least every month. And so they have multiple production pieces of code they are maintaining at any one time. And so their kind of history is, for the first 26 months of the project, they worked in Subversion. And with this intense development that's been going on for this whole time, it was killing them. Feature branches, all these things were very hard to do merging, and it was just confusion. And every few months we were trying to figure out a new way to do, how do we branch and tag and do all of them. It was a fist fight every 3-4 months, and with good reason, because it was confusing. After 26 months, they moved the project to Git, and things got better, but it didn't have everything that they needed to really do this intense development. Branch creation was kind of ad hoc, and getting Jenkins to auto-create jobs for branches never seemed to work right. It kind of worked and it didn't. It was a mess. So we implemented a few months ago Atlassian's Gitflow, which basically meant moving them from their standard Git server to Stash, and moving them from Jenkins to Bamboo. And literally within a few days, all those problems started to kind of go away. This is the first time we were able to enforce code reviews. Branches were always created by Jira. So in the past, they would count on the developer to do it, and sometimes the names would be wrong or inconsistent. But now it was always done by Jira. Everything became consistent. Per branch Bamboo build plans worked rather the gate. No weird scripting or anything. It just worked. Auto merging across multiple releases started to work. That was a big time saver and accuracy. And then we had Bamboo and Jira. Between those two, we could see where code was in what environment. So now I could have my colleague Thomas Pilau show Gitflow in action.
All right, so we're going to give control over to Thomas here.
Yeah, I need to present. Okay, thanks, Mike, for the introduction. So I'm going to do a little live demo from the stuff that Mike talked about. And we're basically going to go through a couple of steps: creating feature branches, do some code change, and then see what's happening in the system. Let's take a quick look, because Mike focused a little bit on configuration. We're going to have a quick look at some configuration, but not a lot. The one thing you have to be aware of to have all the tools communicating with each other, you need to set up the application links, and I'm sure that your Atlassian sysadmin can help you to do that. Once that's done, let's take a quick look at the settings for Stash. So we have here a very simple project, and this project actually only has one single repository. And the interesting thing about this repository are a couple of things. First of all, on the settings page, we set as Mike mentioned, so the default branch we usually use develop, because that's where most of the code, where the branching off works off, besides hotfixes. Then for the pull request, we basically say that for the pull request, it will require at least one approver. You can also have additional tasks associated with that, like you require all tasks to be resolved, you require a minimum of number of successful builds, and so forth. And the other interesting thing is our Jira triggers, which came in, I think, in version 6.3 of Jira there, and we're going to see the effect of triggers a little bit later. So far about configuration. Now let's start through the workflow. I created an issue which is a very simple ticket. It's a new feature we want to create for a application, and we see basically here there's not much in, it's just a sample thing. And what we usually recommend, especially if you're new with your team to Jira, you have here in the Jira ticket itself a link that's called create branch, and you actually want to use that one to create a new branch within Stash. So if you open that one up, then you create a new branch in Stash. It will automatically know where it comes from. So you want to have from our application repository, because the issue type is feature, it will automatically detect that the branch type should be feature. We're branching off develop, and it puts in the feature name, the branch name, which usually starts with the issue key and then the summary of the feature. So we're going to leave it as is right now. Maybe we can shorten the name a little bit. And then we create a branch. So, and you see we now have a create branch. Now we can start working on it. There are a couple of things that's happening underneath. So first of all, if you refresh the issue, you see a few things. Number one, the status of the issue changed into in progress automatically without me doing anything. That's due to the Jira triggers I mentioned a few minutes ago. So if you look, for instance, at the workflow, we have a standard, very simple workflow. You might not be able to recognize that correctly. So we have open, and it goes in review. From in review, it goes into in progress, and it goes into in review. It can be reopened, ready for QAs, and so forth. It's a very simple plan, workflow that you follow. The other thing you see in the development section down here, you now see that a new branch was created for you. So if you click on that one, you basically get some simple information. So which repository, what's the name of the branch? If there are any pull requests and you have an action where you can create a pull request directly out of your Jira issue right here. So let's now go back and take a look at the code. We are using SourceTree as one of the tools. So we have our application here. So if I fetch the latest changes from the repository, you will see that now in our feature, we have the branch create new feature AWS 28. We can check that out. Now we have it here. Now we can start making some changes. The other thing which happened and Mike talked about are the automatic branch configuration in the build plan. So we can have a look at our continuous integration. As I said, we are using Bamboo. We have a job setup which is called AWS console CI for continuous integration. We can look at the branches, and we have to wait here a little bit because the creation, the system scans for new branches. So we have to sit here for maybe 5 minutes, and then the new branch will show up. But in the meantime, let's take a look at our stash right now. So we have right now here at SourceTree right now, we have SourceTree here. We have our changes, so we can basically start opening and do some very simple change just to see something. Where's my window? Showing final. So for now, the only thing we want to do is we want to go in here and edit the README file just to get a commit out there. So Let's take a refresh here. So if we look at our our plan configuration, the plan that we are using actually is very simple. We have a default job, which basically just checks out the code, runs a Maven build, and then it's done. The more interesting part actually is the configuration of the branching model, which is over here, where we basically say that everything that starts with feature should automatically create its own branch. And you see right now, so after about 5 minutes and Bamboo scans the repository, now we have our branch here, which is feature branch here for the build, which is feature AWS 28. So if you look at the branch plan, we will see it executed automatically the first time before we did any changes, and now everything is fine. Right, so now we have our code change in there, our feature plan is here. So we can basically now go ahead excuse me, and commit our changes. So we have our small change here. So we want to commit this change and automatically push it out. One big recommendation we have is to always add the ticket into it. The issue key into the commit message so that the commit is linked back to the issue itself. And then we might have to select this guy, and then we can commit the change. And now going back and see what's going on the stash and Jira side after the commit. So the one thing you see is if we look into our branch here and check out the commits, we see right now our commit came in a moment ago for that issue. If we refresh the issue page, we see additional information in the section of our development here. We see there was a branch. We see we have another commit. And we will soon see that there's also a build plan. So let's take a look back at our plan here, the AWS create. So we on that right now. We saw that basically it triggered another build. If you look at the code here, we will see it's a plan. It's the execution itself. We will see we have like one small commit in there. We can look at the diffs. We see the issue that's related to. And now after this build was successful, we take a look back at our maybe 28, right? It should be seeing here something else. Anyway, so we see that our build was executed correctly. Everything is working fine. In a minute, the issue will be updated with some additional information. So far we are basically went through the push of a new feature out. And now what we want to do is basically we want to create a pull request. So there are two ways to do that. We can basically do that here from Jira, right here, where it says create a pull request. Or to create a new pull request from the branch 28 into develop. We create that one. So I will assign it to Michael. And creates a pull request. Before I hand it over, you will see that you have a little warning over here. If because that pull request cannot be merged automatically. For one thing, I need to have Michael actually reviewing it and approving the change that I made before I can do anything with it. And I think now we have to hand the presentation quickly over to Michael so he can step you through the approval process of a pull request.
All right. Coming your way, Mike.
Give me the keys.
Coming your way.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
All right. Tell me you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, just send it your way. You'll probably have to accept it. There we go.
Okay. So I'm now logged into our Git, and I'm not sure if you guys can see, but in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little inbox tray, and there's a 1 saying there's one pending merge request for me to do. Now, I also received an email for that, but it's in my little inbox here, so I click on that. And I'm not sure if you guys can see this here, but it says, there's the one small change, and I'm going to click on that. And you can see here is the pull request that I can comment on. So I can go to the diff. I can see what he changed. It looks good, and I can comment. I'm going to say, great job, Thomas. So now that will be forever with the code and stash. And by the way, this is something that we tell customers. When you comment on code and stash, it's not put into the code. It's separate. So if you move the code to a different repository, things like comments like that do not go with the code. Anyway, so I'm going to approve this. And now that's approved, I'm going to hit merge. And you have an option here. It says, do you want to delete the source branch after merging? I'm not going to have it do that. So it's merging back into the develop branch. And again here, Thomas cannot commit to that branch. This makes sure the only way that code gets back into that branch is through me or anyone else has write permissions to that develop branch. So I'm going to merge. And it's all good. And I think now we can go back to Thomas, and he can show you the status of the issue in Jira, how that gets automatically updated. So go ahead, guys. Take control back, please.
All right, a little merry-go-round here. Coming back to Thomas.
This is technology. It's exciting.
There
you are, Thomas. You're back.
Okay, so as Mike talked about, before he basically merged the code in there, my status changed a little bit, so I refreshed the pull request, and again now I have a different message here which says I have insufficient permissions to merge the code into develop, because only Mike is allowed to merge something into develop, so I had to wait for that one to happening. If I refresh the code now, then you see right now the merge was completed. You see the information. Going back to my Jira ticket, I refresh that one. You see the ready now changed for ready to QA. You also see that in the development section, so it shows that there was one pull request for that issue. The pull request was merged. We had 2 builds. If you look at details here, we have the CI build completed, and we had another build completed, which is the dev deploy. We mentioned that earlier that a lot of people in the modern environment want to have a continuous deployment process running, and you can do that with Bamboo, which you basically have to set up. It's just another build plan, and you attach that build plan to something which is called a deployment project. The deployment project is just another plan where you can determine, okay, I want to deploy something, in that case to our dev environment on EC2, and then you can basically set up a number of very simple steps that are related to that one. So if you look at our steps, without going into details there, you basically can go in there, and basically what we do, we stop a Tomcat application, we undeploy the application, and we redeploy the new one, and then we start Tomcat again. So very simple, very easy to set up. These steps come out of the box for Bamboo, so you don't have to purchase any plugins. So now if we go back to the issue itself, um, after the deployment completed, you will also see here in the section under development again, if you set this deployment project up correctly, you see now it was deployed. It was deployed to the environment name, in our case, the dev environment on EC2. And now, basically, because it's already in QA, now your QA person can go in, looks at the status, says, "Oh, this one is ready for me." He sees immediately where he can test it. You can also have it deployed to multiple things like a QA environment and the staging environment. But that basically then completes the development Gitflow process. And at that point, we basically are here right now at the end of the Gitflow workflow, and now we'll be handing it basically over to the QA person who continues with the issue resolution um, and proceeds from there. That basically completes a little demo of the Gitflow within Stash, Bamboo, and Jira.
Okay.
Great.
Bring it back over to me now. And Mike, you can take it away.
Oh, thank you. So let's kind of wrap up what we saw today. So first of all, we showed Gitflow as implemented by the Atlassian family of tools and products. So and you can see how it's pretty easy to configure, set up, and get rolling. And as part of that, we showed the auto branching and Bamboo. When Thomas created a new feature branch, Bamboo picked it up out of Stash and went to 10. And we showed at the very end, he showed the deployment projects, which shows like how you take those branches and deploy it into various environments. And then also, we also showed the permissions that you set on your Stash repositories for branches to enforce pull requests. And I think that's the last slide there. I think it is.
That is it.
Yep. There we go. So if anyone has any questions, Thomas and I and Danny would be happy to field them, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of what you're thinking.
Yeah, so great. We did have a couple questions come in, and I'll start reading them off. So first question is, if we choose to use GitHub instead of Stash in our process, are there features that we lose over the Stash, Jira, Bamboo tools, it looks like?
Sure. So great question. So if you use GitHub, you do lose some of the features, like an example. Since kind of Stash in our example was kind of the arbiter and kind of tells, like Stash, the one that tells Bamboo to create a new branch and whatnot. So like you can kind of do that with GitHub, but it takes more infrastructure. Like you have to do more to implement that. Whereas with the Stash and Bamboo being used, it's all automatic. And then in general, what's nice is in Stash, because it's part of the Atlassian family, it inherits all the groups and everything from Jira and Confluence and Bamboo. So when you set up your branch permissions, it's easier to use all the groups that are just floating around in the whole Atlassian soup than with GitHub. You kind of have to maintain all that stuff separately. Just the integration, we've done it where we help people accomplish almost the same thing, but it's always painful. And every time you upgrade, things change. We're here. Atlassian makes sure those integrations work well right out of the box. So from an initial pain in setup to ongoing maintenance, this is a lot easier. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, great. Next question. How hard was it to migrate the client from Jenkins to Bamboo?
So I'm assuming they're asking about the execute to win folks. So it was mostly, to be honest, we were not done with some parts of it yet. Most of it was very easy, and in fact, a lot of the custom scripting we had to do in Jenkins just kind of went away. So that was good. The only thing we're still in the process of doing is a lot of the tests that they run on some builds, we do not have working under Bamboo yet. So working with the Selenium test suite, we don't have that quite working yet. But everything else is pretty quick, and for 90% of their builds, we're ready to go. I mean, it is working now, but there's some parts that we're still working on. The thing about Jenkins has a lot more plugins than Bamboo, and so a few of the plugins that we relied on are not in Bamboo. But overall, everyone's much happier with it, and like we're about done with the whole. We are completely untethered from the Jenkins build platform, and overall everyone's much happier. Next question.
Yeah, so one came in. I should address this earlier. So someone's asking if we'll make the video available online, the recording. Yes, definitely. We'll do that shortly after today's session. So thanks for that. Should have been mentioned. Next question. The demo featured source tree as the Git client. Do you recommend using it over the command line client?
Sure. So inside Isos, this is a hotly contested thing. There are people who do not like using any GUI, and we did not invite them to be on the webinar for that purpose. But no, we encourage clients to have it and to use source tree. Specifically, if they can, because it really does a good job of visualizing your Git branches. If new branches pop up, it automatically will tell you whether they're there. So when you create a branch in Jira, source tree will automatically pick it up and tell you that it's available. And so we encourage people to use source tree if possible, and it works perfectly well with the command line. So typically, I can't speak for Thomas, but I use both all the time. But I love having source tree there to give me a different view of my Git repository. And especially when you use Gitflow, it makes it really nice when new branches appear, you know they're there, and you don't accidentally make a branch or anything. It keeps everything in sync very nicely. So we encourage people to use source tree. It's a great free product from Atlassian. Are there any other questions?
No, that was actually the last one. So if there aren't any other questions, I mean, if there are, feel free to put them in the window. If they come in, we'll address them. If you have questions after the fact, you can see some of our contact information there. You can email it right to info. That will get to one of us. But we want to thank everybody for your interest and attendance today. Thanks to Mike and Thomas for putting this together. And again, we welcome any other questions. We'll be doing other webinars, so stay tuned for that. And thanks again, everybody. Hope you got something out today.